Students, Robert Frost's poem Birches is a fine lyric that brings out several aspects of Frost's art. So, today we are going to discuss those aspects. First of all, let me tell you that fact and fancy are the two polarities of Frost's art, and both mingle in this fine lyric. His passion for fact is seen in his minuteness of observation and his love of the earth. His imagination or fancy is seen in his imagery and in his vivid and picturesque descriptions. The crystal ice becomes heaps of broken glass. The arched trees are transformed into girls on hands and knees. The country boy whose only play was what he found himself riding and subduing his father's birches becomes the mature poet who announces Earth's the right place for love. I don't know where it's likely to go better. Thus, wisdom and whimsy join to make a poem that delights the mind and endears itself to the heart. The popularity of Birches lies in its combination of picture and human appeal. It is all the more appealing because of the shrewd turns and the rare twinkle. In other words, the poem is an expression of Frost's rich and ripe philosophy. Then this fine lyric is modern in several ways. It fully exhibits the symbolic metaphysical structure of modern verse. Such opposites as fact and fancy, observation and imagination, earth and heaven, reality and ideality combine to enrich the texture of the lyric. It is possible to read the lyric on several levels. It can be read and enjoyed as a plain, simple description of the habits of birches. But it is also possible to interpret it symbolically. The upward climb towards heaven of the birch swinger symbolizes human ideals and aspirations. The human desire for withdrawal from harsh reality, the dream world of fancy into which man would like to escape from the wearisome conditions of life on this earth. As in a modern poem, the thought is developed metaphorically. There is a gradual progression of metaphors. The poem begins with a simple, concrete description of the habits of birches and the changes wrought upon them by wind and ice storms. But soon it becomes a parable of human aspirations. The boy who swings the birches shrewdly and carefully suggests metaphorically to the poet that he himself, weary of consideration and wishing to get away from earth a while, partakes of the same experience. The poem concludes with a note on the question of earth, life, and death, and the balance demonstrated in the metaphor of swinging birches between heaven and earth. Man should arrange his life or should adjust in his life in such a manner that he should attain a balance between his work on earth and his spiritual aspirations. It is not desirable to leave the earthly duties completely, nor is it advisable to have no spiritual aspirations and be always pinned down to the earth. The lyric is also an embodiment of the ache of modernity, the feeling of anxiety, frustration, and helplessness which characterizes life in a modern city. There is an acute awareness of the miseries and disillusionments of life. Life refuses to show a path, and ultimately man himself has to explore the weary way. Frost describes life as a pathless wood, where your face burns and tickles with the cobwebs broken across it. and one eye is weeping from a twig having lashed across it open. It is when the poet is weary of considerations that he wants to forget the bitterness of this earthly existence. The poem is reminiscent of Keats' Ode to a Nightingale, where the poet wants to fade far away into the world of the nightingale so that he might have a momentary escape from weariness, the fever, and the fret of life. But Keats wants to escape this misery of life because he cannot bear it. On the other hand, Robert Frost clearly states that his withdrawal is momentary. It is a period of probation to face life all the more courageously. And he describes emphatically, "May no fate wilfully misunderstand me, and half grant what I wish and snatch me away, not to return." He certainly loves to return, for he knows that earth's the right place for love. It is this awareness which shows how much Frost is rooted in reality. Now, if we talk about the language, it is usual, simple, and clear. Many of the lines in it have epigrammatic force and terseness and are frequently quoted. The lines which have the most quotable quality are: "Earth is the right place for love. I do not know where it's likely to go better." The lyric also illustrates the poet's mastery over blank verse. The rhythm is varied in keeping with the requirements of thought and emotion. However, the rhythm becomes slow and stately when the poet moralizes on the wearisome condition of human life. "It's when I am weary of considerations, and life is too much like a pathless wood." So, in this way, in general, we can say that this is a very beautiful poem which describes Frost's philosophy. And if we talk about the themes of this poem, the theme is of the imagination versus the real world is one of its theme. Then there is the need for limits. Another theme is of conquest. Then the beautiful nature description is another important theme. So in this way, it's a beautiful poem written in blank verse and is also one of the most famous poems of Robert Frost. That's all, students. Thank you.